Roast my beans, it's cold out there. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all good. As per usual, I am your host, Luke the Elder Bean. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good. As per usual, you're keeping warm and you've got yourself a nice big jug, a mega pint, as Johnny Depp would say, of hot chocolate or mulled wine, whatever takes your fancy this holiday season. Today is going to be a very brilliant, fantastic one, and I'm so excited. And this is a topic that I've wanted to look into for years since I started the podcast. And every Christmas, I'm saying, I'm going to do it, and I never do. So I found a loophole. I figured if I do these as a special bonus episodes in the middle of everything else that I do, it will work out nicely. So today, if you haven't read the title, we're going to be looking at Doctor Who, The Christmas Invasion from 2005. This is the introduction of the 10th Doctor, David Tennant, and I'm absolutely excited and ecstatic for it. But before all of that and more, got to do with housekeeping, because I like to keep my house nice and clean, especially during the winter time where I've got to keep nice and warm and keep the fire started and keep the horrible Jack Frost wind out. But also, if the Doctor's coming around, I want it to look a little bit nice. And you can help me by doing that by following me on Twitter at howdybeans_pod. You can also find the podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Just don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow. Oh, and rate the podcast as well. I'm also on TikTok, so if you want to follow me on TikTok, I would greatly appreciate it. So, as I mentioned today, we're looking at the Christmas Invasion from 2005. Before we get into that, I want to sort of update people on my Doctor Who journey so far. So for anybody that hasn't been following the podcast or is jumping on now during Christmas, again, if you're new, thank you for joining me. If you are, recurring, well, welcome back. I do appreciate your continued listens and sort of following and helping and support. But basically, the long and short of it is all of this year, I've mostly dedicated myself to Torchwood. That has been my main goal. And I've absolutely loved and enjoyed Torchwood. I watched all of Series 1. I reviewed all of Series 1, which was a fantastic, brilliant time. I absolutely adored it. I'm a huge fan of Torchwood now. Like, I'm actually looking at getting the full series box set, as well as it's got Miracle Day and Children of Earth. It's got all the specials on it as well. So I'm looking to get in that in Blu-ray. So to say I'm a hardcore fan now is a bit of an understatement. I also reviewed the first two Torchwood novels, which was, again, an absolute blast and a ball, and I recommend those. And I did say at the end of doing all of that I was going to go back into Doctor Who. And this is going to be the beginning of it. I know we're at the end of the year, but this is going to be the beginning of me getting back into Doctor Who. And I'll talk a bit more about it, like, at the end, as well as sort of the next special episode that I've got planned, which again I'll talk about at the end of this one. But I do have some plans of what's going to come next in terms of Doctor Who, where I'm going to go, what I'm going to look into. So next year, so that will be my 5th year, my 5th anniversary, and my 5th year doing the podcast. Which will be a big celebration year anyway, but will be the year where I return to Doctor Who and look into a lot more stuff, a lot more modern stuff, but also a lot of the classic stuff as well. So I hope you all stick around for that. As for this episode in general, I want to start off by talking about my memories about this one. I've kind of really gone out and talked about Doctor Who a lot, especially, I've reviewed Series 2 of Doctor Who. That is the series of the 10th Doctor and Rose, his first series, and obviously at the end of that, Rose disappears, and obviously I reviewed all of the 10 and 9 books. So I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to sort of recap it for anybody that doesn't know. I grew up with Doctor Who. I didn't know Doctor Who existed, to be honest. It wasn't until the revival that I learnt about it. And when it was revival, I didn't realise it was revival. I just thought it was a new show. I didn't know that there was a classic Doctor Who at all. So I started with Christopher Eccleston. He is my Doctor. I love Christopher Eccleston. And Christopher Eccleston's like fine wine. Like, every time I come back to him, he just gets better and better with age. His performance, and like now I've listened to his audio, his autobiography, I Am the Bones of You, which is brilliant. I highly recommend that. And I was distraught when he left, to be honest, because he was only there for one series, but I was really sad. And then this new guy comes in, David Tennant. Didn't know him, blew for a goose. I knew Christopher Eccleston because I was a fan of a lot of older movies as well. I really, really loved Gone in 60 Seconds, and he played the villain in that movie. So that's where I knew him. But when it came to David Tennant, I had no idea who he is. I was a bit not sure, but it was this episode, which I know says a lot considering that he's asleep for most of it, to be honest. And they do make a joke of that in the episode. But this was the episode that really started that love of Doctor Who for me, and kind of started that sort of inside me, that renaissance, that kind of sort of revitalized of like, oh my God, it's not over. We've got somebody new, and they're brilliant as well, and they're fantastic, and it's going to be, I can't wait to see where they go and what they do. And it started off a new fascination. We all remember how big Doctor Who got when David Tennant took over. And I'm not saying he's better than Chris Eccleston at all, but we just know how big it got when he took over. And even now, people still say that he is one of the best modern doctors, and they've brought him back how many times? Like, they keep bringing him out of the freezer and be like, David, we need you to do the Doctor again. And obviously David loves playing the Doctor, so he'll always come back. And I love seeing him in the 60th anniversary, and I love seeing him in, I think it was the 50th anniversary as well, him and Matt Smith. So it's always a joy when David Tennant's on screen. But when I remember Christmas Day 2005, the 25th of December, watching the Christmas Invasion and just being sort of mesmerized by this man, especially when, like, near the end, when he wakes up and he's like, I don't know who I am. I'm somebody new. Am I a fighter? Am I a coward? Am I brave? Like, it was just so different, but it was so encapsulating that when we got to sort of the rest of the series, you kind of really knew, like, okay, this is the kind of Doctor he is. And I love that. And that's my memories really of the Christmas Invasion, watching it Christmas Day and just being like, oh God, it isn't the end. It's continually going. And that's the whole point of Doctor Who, and that's the whole point of regeneration. Regeneration is one of the most clever things in TV has ever been devised, because it never ends. It just keeps going. You revive. It's like a soft reboot. You revive, not revive, you regenerate, you bring in a new actor, you do like a soft reboot. So like the Sonic changes, the TARDIS changes, the companions sometimes change. And then it's new stories, new writers, new showrunners, blah, 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 blah. It's something different, and it's new, and it's fresh. And I love that. I do. That's one of, I think, reason why Doctor Who's lived for so long, is because it's always regenerating. It's always changing. It's always changing with the times, with the culture, with the politics, with the world. And it's an ever-present sort of being, and we just love it for that. But that's my sort of memories of Christmas Invasion. As for how this review is going to go, it's going to go a lot like all my other reviews that I do, specifically the Doctor Who ones. I'm going to go off and I'm going to watch Christmas Invasion, and then I come back. We're going to talk about my thoughts and feelings on it, and we're going to talk about my feelings of like David Tennant. I know I already mentioned it here, but it's been a while since I've watched the Christmas Invasion, so we're going to talk about how David is in the role, and his sort of, like, that's his first episode. That's his first of him actually being the Doctor. So actually seeing that and experiencing that, and how I feel like he took on the role, and the Sycorax and the aliens and Harriet Jones and all the sort of wonderful things about this episode, and just break it down like that. So without further ado, I'm going to get nice and warm, get some hot chocolate. I'm going to go watch the Christmas Invasion. And when we come back, we're going to talk about it, and it's going to be absolutely lovely. So until then, I will see you all in a festive minute. And welcome back, everybody. Watching this episode back again, it's got me so nostalgic, not just for Doctor Who, just for Christmas in general. I'm currently recording this near the end of November, and it's not just because of, we're close to Christmas. I'm already in the Christmas mood, and Christmas is one of my favorite times of the year. But watching this episode just gives me such nostalgia, because I remember where I was back in 2005 Christmas Day. I remember how old I was. I remember the presents that I've got. I remember the house that we were in, and I remember how excited I was to see new Doctor Who and to play with all my new Doctor Who toys. And I got my sonic screwdriver, and I got figures, and it was just wonderful. It was a beautiful, lovely, fantastic time of the year, and this has got me really nostalgic, and I'm really glad that I've decided to do this, because it is an absolute treat, not just for me and not just for you, but it's just a lovely sort of trek back down sort of memory lane into an era of when I was young, when I was innocent, and when Doctor Who was everything. It was sort of it was more of a staple and a mainstay than it is now. And again, it's the beginning of what took off the rest of my fandom and sort of lead me to where I am sort of today. So it's really nice. It really, really is. Before I give my first impressions on the actual episode itself, I want to talk about Children in Need 2005. There was a special called Born Again. Now, this is a mini episode. It's about almost 8 minutes long. It's not very long. You can find it on YouTube in full if you want to watch it. And I do recommend it because it gives you a full introduction to David Tennant. It shows you his regeneration, and the events of what happened after, he generates. He goes, "Oh, hello," and then it cuts. It gives you a longer sort of time with him, so you can kind of get to know of like, oh, so the Doctor's changed. He's no longer Christopher Eccleston. He's somebody else. What does that mean? And I'll get on to sort of the idea of how important this episode is for regeneration and showing and explaining how regeneration works for a new generation. But I do recommend watching the Born Again short. Reason being is the fact of you don't get a lot of David Tennant's Doctor in this episode, in the Christmas Invasion. So this kind of gives you an idea of, okay, so the Doctor's changed. He's new. He doesn't know who he is. He's very much the fact of, I've got new teeth. I've got the mole. I love the mole. He's running around the TARDIS, and then kind of you've got Rose, and she's terrified. She's like, "Who is this man? What have you done to the Doctor? Where is he?" And he's like, "Well, I am the Doctor. Like, I'm same body, just different face." And she's like, "No, you're not. I've seen this before. You blew him up or you teleported him. Bring him back now. I want him back now." And then sort of the smile drops from the Doctor's face, and he kind of looks at Rose, and he's like, "Well, I can't." Really, do you want me to change? And she went, yeah. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. And he had it's that first initial moments of like, okay, things are different, things are changing now. And obviously, as a new audience, and as I've said this before, I needed to know what regeneration was. Like I said, prior to 2005, I didn't know what a Doctor Who was. To me, it was a new show. As I said in the introduction, it was a brand new thing. So that was good for the younger audience, for the new generation to come in to be like, look, it is different. It's a different person. He's different personality. He's a bit quirky. He's a bit silly. And this is going to be the Doctor going forward. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this special because we've got a lot to talk about the Christmas Invasion. But I do recommend it. There's another little Easter egg as well that I really love, where the Doctor, he's playing around on the console, going to Barcelona and that, and he I think he's his left or right hand, whichever one gets chopped off at the end of this episode, and he's in it and he goes, oh, a bit weak in the left clavicle. I think it was a clavicle. I think that was a fancy word he used. And that's a little Easter egg because I think, if I remember correctly, that's the hand that gets chopped off. And it's kind of funny because he said the hand's a bit weak, but obviously when he gets chopped off, he goes, "This is a fighting hand," and he gets a new hand. And obviously that links him to Torchwood, but we're not going to get into that. But I just love that little Easter egg kind of thing. Like it kind of hints the fact of, the hand's a bit weak, but don't worry, I'm going to get a new one in a minute, so it'll be okay. So I love that little Easter egg. So yeah, I do recommend watching the Children Need Born Again special. Like I said, it's on YouTube. Watch that before you watch this one because it extends the episode a bit more, gives you a bit more time with David Tennant, gives you much more time with the Doctor before he spends majority of it comatose, asleep, really. So yeah, as for my first impressions of the Christmas Invasion, as I said, it's pure Christmas. Listening to sort of I Wish It Could Be Christmas and having the Christmas sounds and the snow and everybody getting ready because it's like 24th of December. It's lovely. It really, really is. It kind of gets you into that Christmas mood. And it for me, this is what started that constant of like, there needs to be a Doctor Who Christmas special. But there always needs to be, because Doctor Who and Christmas just works together. I can't really explain it, but if you're a Doctor Who fan or if you've watched this episode, you get it. You just understand that the Doctor and Christmas just go hand in hand. Maybe it's because the Doctor is all about hope and about peace and about sort of love. Maybe that's why it works, because that's what we stand for on Christmas, because Christmas is a day of peace here on the planet Earth. And that's what the Doctor stands for. Maybe that's why they work together so much. I don't know. Or maybe it's fun, it's an adventure for Christmas. And maybe because it's so unique and so different that it just works. I don't know. But the Doctor and Christmas go so well together. As for sort of the rest of my impressions, I I remember watching this and thinking, oh, I wish there was more Doctor. But as I've grown up and as I've watched more of this, and I'll talk about it when I get onto the story bit, but it really shows how much humanity needs the Doctor and how much, the audience, how much the fans, how much we need the Doctor. And I love that. I love how it explores that. I love the whole thing with Harriet Jones as well. Harriet Jones, Prime Minister, and everybody's looking. It's that ongoing joke of like, we know who you are, and it never gets old. You know how many times it's not like Mavity. When the first time I heard it, I was like, stop. This is one of them recurring jokes where I'm like, it gets funnier every time I see it because even the Sycorax, she's got Harriet Jones, Prime Minister, and even Sycorax like, yes, we know who you are, and like they're aliens. They've never been to this planet, but they just know. I find that funny. And I love the fight at the end. I love sort of the idea of the pilot fish. How they follow the big fish and they basically come to try to take the Doctor. The killer Christmas tree, great. There's just so much about this whole episode, this long episode, where it just reeks of Christmas. It reeks of hope. It reeks of danger, of the need for the Doctor, why the Doctor is so important, and just the love of sort of humanity, really, and like why this is such an important holiday for us all and why we all love and celebrate it, because it's that time of rejuvenation, that time of change, as you would say, pardon the pun, regeneration for us all, really, where we all come together and we change, but we also, things stay the same, but we keep going. It's that time of coming together. It's lovely. I love Christmas. I do. One thing I want to talk about now, before we get into the story, just briefly, I want to talk about the production of this episode, because I feel like it's quite interesting. So I want to talk about the writing specifically, not the filming or the casting, because we all know all that. But I want to talk mostly about the writing. So the Christmas special is a tradition in British television series. And while this is the first story for Doctor Who clearly labelled as a Christmas special, the 7th episode of the Daleks' Master Plan, titled The Feast of Stephen, was written as a Christmas episode, even featuring a fourth wall breaking Christmas wish to the viewers by William Hartnell. He does. I haven't seen the episode, but at the very end of the episode, I think they're at a party, and William Hartnell, he looks down the camera and he goes, "Merry Christmas to all and all a good night." I think something like that. And it's the first time, I think the first time that Doctor Who had really broke the fourth wall, and the Doctor's done it since, but that was the first time. Christmas specials became an annual staple for Doctor Who until 2018, where it was replaced by a New Year's special. Although not shown at Christmas, the Unquite Dead was set on Christmas Eve 1869. The production of the special, along with the entirety of the second series, began before the broadcast of the first series, and therefore none of Davis's team knew if the script would ever see production. Davis wished to have an adversary having a prosthetic face while retaining the actor's actual eyes and mouth. He also stated that he had always found the idea of Santa, an old man creeping into children's rooms at night, creepy. As a result, the enemies fought included the alien Sycorax, as well as a murderous robot Santa, seeking also to endear Tennant's Doctor to those who had grown too attached to the Ninth Doctor. He brought back Harriet Jones as Prime Minister, a future event that the Doctor had mentioned in World War III. So that is a bit of a production. I just wanted to bring that up because Christmas and Doctor Who has always kind of been a thing, and I wanted to sort of just briefly mention the fact of, like, there have been not official Christmas specials. The Christmas specials officially started with the revival, but there have been Christmas episodes, and there have been that one Christmas episode where the Doctor looks at the camera and wishes everybody a Merry Christmas, which I think is very, very lovely. As for the story, so as I mentioned, the story mostly revolves around the Doctor's regenerated, but he is going through, there's something wrong with his change. Like, he's regenerated, but like it's new. It's not like we've seen before, because normally when the Doctor regenerates, he's got a new face, and he's like, ha ha, hee hee, hoo, hoo. We've got to do this, and we do that, and we'll go here, and we'll go there. And then you got the companions going, what? This is okay. Because obviously most companions, a lot of the time, the regeneration is the first time they're ever seeing this. And the Doctor gets off, and he does what he does, and that's it. Whereas with this regeneration, when he regenerates, if you watch the Children Need special, he is a new person, blah, blah, blah. he's going through that. But at the end of that episode, he's like, oh, he's kind of like, my brain hurts, my body's hurts. He's like, I've got no control over myself, and he's going crazy. And he ends up sending the TARDIS into a crash landing into Earth, and that's where this episode starts. Where like he opens the door, he goes, "Oh, hello, Mickey, Jackie, how are you? I've got something really important. Oh, wait, I got something important to tell you. Oh, that's it. Merry Christmas." And then he passes out. And like, they're freaking out. They're like, oh, who is this guy? And I don't know who he is. And Rose like, well, that's the Doctor. That's him, really. That's the Doctor. And she goes, no, he isn't. He's got a different face. He goes, he's changed, Mom. I don't know who he is. And Rose goes through this whole arc in this episode of like not really realizing that she doesn't know the Doctor, that she thought she knew him, but there's still loads of parts of the Doctor she doesn't understand, and she's not comfortable with it. And I've mentioned this before in other episodes, and I'll bring it up again. My theory is that when it came to Christopher Eccleston, his Doctor, she saw him as a father figure, because when she met him, she was lost. It was just her and her mum and Mickey. She's living this boring, mundane life, and she's missing something. And as the series goes on, you realise that she's missing her dad. She's missing that father figure in her life. And even though she gets to meet him and she messes things up, she still gets that moment with her dad, and she has a chance to fix it. But I feel like the way she looks at the Doctor, the Ninth Doctor, is in a father figure. It's like, I love you, but I love you as a father, sort of thing. As somebody who's going to look after me, someone who's going to be my new, again, father figure. And then he goes, and she loses that father figure. And now what she's got is this younger bloke. And there's still that love there, there's still that care, but she doesn't know who he is. And it's not until by the end of the episode she realizes that is when he's doing the big grand speech and he does the fight with the Sycorax, that she realizes, oh, actually, he is the Doctor. He is somebody that I remember, but he's different. But you can see that there's a spark there, that she looks at him a bit differently. She sees him differently. She still sees him as the Doctor, but you can still tell in her eyes that there's probably a bit of romance, and that obviously leads in series 2 where they fall in love with each other, or well, at least she falls in love with him, and I think the Doctor falls in love with her. He's not able to say that he loves them yet. That takes a couple more generations to get to that point. But I love that, and like as I mentioned earlier, this with the episode, it goes to show how humans need the Doctor, and what I mean by that is how important, not just for humanity but for the fans, because the Doctor for this, he's passed out. He's still going through generation, so he's kind of like in a coma, in a stasis. While this is happening, you have the Sycorax. The Voyager 1 probe's gone out. It's gone out with a disc, and it's got like earth, minerals and dirt. It's got human blood on it. And the Sycorax take this, and they tried to take control over 1/3, I think 2/3 of the population. Is about 2 billion people because of their blood type. And the humans are struggling. The humans are trying to figure out, where's the Doctor? What we're going to do? We've got the 2/3 of the population all around the world on Christmas Day are standing on the edge of buildings, and they're going to jump. And that's 2 billion people that are going to die instantly. And they're being controlled by the Sycorax. No one's heard of the Doctor. We don't know what to do. Harriet Jones, she's trying her best. She's looking for help. She's calling for help for the Doctor. And she has to get like Torchwood on the line of like, if the Doctor's not here, our last sort of ditch effort is Torchwood. Like, I know I'm not meant to know about it, but Torchwood is our only hope, and that's the London branch of Torchwood, which we don't meet them until the end of series 2. And you have that moment of like, you realize this is why the Doctor is so important. It's not that humanity is inept. It's just the fact of, humanity. And again, the Doctor mentions it at the very end, and I'll talk about this in a minute. But the Doctor mentions that humans are getting more advanced. So we're ringing the dinner bell, really. We're calling to other people that we are here. We're making a lot of noise. So that just shows that more sort of aliens are going to keep coming to see what's going on at this little planet. And you could even say that's happening now in the real world. Not talking about Doctor Who, we're talking about the real world now. You could say the reason why we're seeing so many drones and why people are noticing things flying in the sky, UFOs and stuff like that recently, is because we've made so much noise since the drop of the atomic bomb in World War II. And since then, we've just got louder and louder and louder with satellites and radio signals and stuff like that were causing a lot of noise. And people are taking notice in the universe of like, oh, something's going on in this small corner of the galaxy. So It is true. Even back in 2005, it's as true as then as it is now. And it shows that like we do need the Doctor. And when and the fans need him as well. When the Doctor's not there, the fans kind of feel a bit lost. And it's represented by the fact of without the Doctor, Rose can't understand what the Sycorax are saying. Because Rose says herself in this episode that the fact of the Doctor is the link. The Doctor is the connection point for her as a companion, so that the TARDIS will translate all alien technology to English so that she can understand them. And it's that thing of like, well, the reason why us as the audience can't understand what the aliens are saying either is the fact of we haven't got that link. The Doctor is that link to the companions, and the Doctor is the link to us. That's why we can't understand what the Sycorax are saying. And that's why you have that wonderful moment when they're on the Sycorax ship and they're talking, and eventually he starts going from Straxonese to English, and you're speaking English, and it's quite subtle at first, but then you notice it. It's like, oh, I can understand what he's saying. And they were saying, but you're speaking English, you're speaking English. And he's like, I would not sully my tongue with your dirty language. I only speak Straxonese. And then it's that moment where Rose is like, well, hold on. If we can understand you, that means, and the camera pans out and there's a Doctor. And then the music changes and the hope comes back of like, well, if I can understand you, that means the Doctor's back. And if the Doctor's back, then hope is restored. It's not all lost. And then you have that big moment. And I really love that. I really love the fact of how they did that. Was the fact of the Doctor, he's not currently here. We don't know what's happening to the Doctor. Is he dead? Is he dying? How long is he going to be in this coma? What's the matter with him? Is this going to be the end of Doctor Who? And you have that moment where it goes from speaking Straxonese to English. It's great because it puts hope back into the fans. It puts hope back into Rose and the rest of humanity. The fact of all is not lost. The Doctor is still with us. And I think there was a later episode with Catherine Tate. I think it's called Turn Left, I think it is, where the Doctor dies with killing the Spider Queen in the Runaway Bride episode. He dies, he sacrifices himself, he dies. And so the world, you see the world in that episode, what the world's like with the Doctor gone. And again, I'll talk about that special and all that when I get round to it. But that probably be like next year or the year after. Who knows when I'll get around to Catherine Tate and the Doctor. Anyway, you see what life is like with the Doctor. So it reinforces that idea of we need the Doctor. Humanity needs him. Without him, we're lost. And that's how important he is. So the reason why this is so important, which I get to my next point, it just shows that, and again, it goes into the idea of regeneration. Because this episode does a good job of showing and explaining how generation works for a new generation. Because as I said, I didn't know what a Doctor Who was before 2005. I didn't know there was such thing as regeneration. So when the Doctor changed from Chris Eccleston to David Tennant, I was a bit sort of sour. I remember distinctly when I was young, I was like, I don't know if I want to watch the show anymore because my favourite my Doctor's gone. Like, I don't know if I want to watch it. I don't like this. And I don't think I actually remember watching the Children in Need special at all. So this episode would have been my first introduction to David Tennant. So it needed to do a good job of showing the audience of like, this is regeneration. You know, he is a different person. He's a new man. And when the Strax goes, who are you? And she goes, I demand who you are. And he goes, I don't know. Because he doesn't know. Because he's figuring out, is that, am I happy? Am I sad? You know, apparently I am very, very chatty. I've got a bit of a gob on me. I don't stop talking. But am I angry? Am I horrible? Am I mean? Am I sort of a gambler? What do I do? And then he pushes the button and he calls their bluff. And he's like, look, I knew blood magic. I knew it ain't going to work. At the end of the day, it's all just a big pile of voodoo, to be honest. And it goes into when they have a fight as well, like the fighting hand and all that, where he's fighting and he's trying his best. Like, he's still brave, but he hasn't got the skills. And he almost loses. And that's when he chops his hand off and he regenerates it. And then he's got like a new hand. So it's this idea of the Doctor, he's changed. He's still the Doctor, but this is the new Doctor. He's different. Especially the best that kind of explains it the most is when the Sycorax leader, he goes to try to kill the Doctor from behind as the Doctor's walking away. And he gets the Satsuma, throws it on the button, and opens up the floor, and then the guy falls down and falls to his death. And just without looking back, he just goes, no second chances. That's the kind of man who I am. And it sets a precedent of like, okay, this is the Doctor. this is what he's going to be like. And it also sets a precedent of like, this is what series 2 is potentially going to be like. How we've got a new Doctor, but it's a different Doctor. And this is how regeneration works. And it does a good job of showing and explaining that to a new audience, which I love. And again, like I said, that links into the idea of why we need the Doctor and why the Doctor's ever changing and stuff like that. But yeah, I really like this Christmas special. It really kind of gets me into the Christmassy mood. And after when this ended and it kind of shows a reel of what's going to come next with series 2, just bring back all those memories of just remember watching this and going, yeah, I think I'm back in. You almost lost me. Like I was basically Rose at this point. I was all the way through this episode. I'm not sure. I don't know. He's different. The Doctor's gone. Like, I'm sad. Like, this is, I'm worried because the Sycorax are here. Like, is the Doctor going to save the day? How's he going to save the day? What's going to happen? And then the Doctor comes through and saves the day, but he's different. But that's okay. Like, it's okay to change. And I love it. I do. And I love the bit as well at the end with the Doctor and Harriet Jones, because before everything happens with Harriet, you have that moment where the Doctor goes up to her and she says to him, she goes, "Is there more out there?" And he goes, yeah, there's loads out there. She goes, this is a whole new sort of planet Earth, like humanity's being very loud and people are hearing and more's going to come. And and as I was rewatching this episode, it had me thinking of like, would Harriet have killed the Sycorax with the Torchwood weapon, with the Torchwood laser, whatever you want to call it? Would she have done that if the Doctor hadn't said what he said? Because you can see in her face change when he says it. Because in the scene, when he's saying it to her, she's very happy. She smiles. She's looking up. She's like, they're leaving. This is great. All's well. Doctor saved the day. Great. And then when he says what he says to her face drops. And it's that realization. You can tell the acting, the face and face of, oh, no, God, they're going to go into the stars and they're going to potentially tell people about Earth and you're not always here. And you can see, like, it's in a few seconds, but the cogs are turning in the head of, like, she realizes this. And that's when her assistant goes to her, Torchwood already, what should we do? And she goes, and it's that look on her face as well. And you kind of feel sorry for Harriet in a way, because she kind of looks back, she looks at the Doctor and she realizes what she feels like she has to do. But she also realizes, I'm going to lose the Doctor. But she does it anyway. And then she tells Torchwood to go ahead. They blow up the Sycorax ship. And the Doctor looks up and then looks at her and realizes, you did this. And she went, why? That was murder. They were running away. And she said, well, you're not always here, Doctor. I saw it for myself. I saw Mr. Llewellyn and the commander, Colonel, he died. And while you was asleep in your pajamas, you're not always around. We need to be able to look after ourselves. And I get where she's coming from, because you're right. The Doctor wasn't here for most of the story, and the Doctor isn't always on Earth. The days when the Doctor's not on Earth, he's on other planets or he's in another timeline. What does humanity do? Because that's the thing. We only see the Doctor when he's traveling, but really at the same time keeps moving. Time is an ever constant thing. So whenever the Doctor's gone and his companions off on adventures, the time that they've left is still going. Those people are still living through that timeline. So the times when the Doctor's not here, what happens? And then many times we've seen in sort of the series so far, the Master comes back and he takes over, and other things happen while the Doctor's away. And he comes back and goes, oh, things are different. Why is it different? What's happened? And then, he's that realization of like, oh, while you were gone, somebody took over or somebody invaded or somebody that is in power that shouldn't be in power, X, Y, and Z. So I get where Harriet's coming from, because it's right what she said. She goes, you're not always here. What do we do when you're not here? But also at the same stage, I understand where the Doctor's coming from. That was murder. They were going away. I should have told them to run, that the monsters are coming, that the human race are here, And I feel sorry for Harriet, because it's that look on her face where she realizes, I have just made the biggest mistake of my life, where I don't justify it, I don't defend it, but I understand where she's coming from. But at the same stage, I understand where the Doctor's come from as well, of like, they run by laws. They run by a different law than humanity runs by. The Doctor won in combat, so they honor that and they leave. But he should have told them to run. He should have told them to boost the engines as quick as possible and leg it, because the humans are here. And in a way, now thinking about it, now saying it, that, if anything, puts more of a target on humanity's back, because it goes to show, like, yeah, we've got a way to defending ourselves, but also the fact of it means that the bigger and badder aliens are like, well, if you think you can take them on, I think I think we can take you on. And that opens us up for more bigger dangers because we pose a bigger threat. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's always a bigger fish. We think we're bigger. We've just proven we can defeat the Atraxi, not the Atraxi, the Sycorax. That means that the bigger fish is gone. But well, I'm going to show you that I can take you on. Doesn't matter if you've got these big fancy weapons. You know what I mean? So it just heightens up for more danger. So I'm on the side of the Doctor, but I can see both sides of it. And the Doctor's like, I'm a new man. You know, I'm not the man that I was, but I am still the Doctor. You know, don't cross me. And she goes, well, you know, you're a good man, but I don't think you're capable of taking me down, because he says I can take you down with one word. And he's like, you're right, 6 words. And he walks over to her assistant, takes his earpiece off, and he goes, don't you think she looks tired? It's just those simple words. And that's been used as a meme loads of times since. And it's like it's like hypnotizes him, because the Doctor canonly, the Doctor does have the power to hypnotize. I think it's like the 3rd Doctor, or yeah, I think it's the 3rd Doctor who has the power of hypnosis. Or maybe that's the Master. I'm not sure. Either way, he's like hypnotizing him, goes in, takes the says it to him, and as he walks off, the guy just completely it's like it's stuck in his brain, but he forgets it. He goes, "Oh, I don't know. He didn't say nothing." And Harriet's freaking out, like, "What did he say? What did he say?" And then sort of the Doctor walks off, and again, you do feel sorry for her, because she kind of sits there and realizes, of like, I've just made the biggest mistake ever. And she goes, I'm sorry, Doctor, you know. And she doesn't really get a chance to have her redemption until Martha comes back, and, you know, she helps try to save the world from the Daleks. But she does have a redemption eventually. But yeah, you do kind of feel sorry for Harriet Jones in this episode. You know, somebody that we loved from series 1 with Chris Eccleston, who had so much hope and so much like nuance of the humanity's new golden age. And then she just loses it all. It just shows the show. Just one choice can bring a whole empire down, and a whole golden age came crumbling down. And then that left a power vacuum, which then leads into the Master. You know, well, that's my theory anyway, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I do love this story. I really, really do. It does a brilliant job of, you know, celebrating Christmas, celebrating Doctor Who, celebrating regeneration, celebrating how important the Doctor is to humanity and fans and to this new generation, but also showing the fact of the Doctor's changed, but doesn't mean anything is different. Things are it's okay to change, and new things are going to happen, and we're going on new adventures, and it's still the Doctor and Rose, and it's going to be wonderful. So look forward to the following year, the next year, 2006, when, you know, Doctor Who comes back and it's all new and it's going to be great. And I love that. So yeah, I had a absolutely fantastic time. My overall thoughts are like, it's just pure nostalgia. It's pure Christmas. And I'm glad that I finally decided to look into these specials. I hadn't planned for them to be very, very long. They're only going to be short, because I'm just going to talk about my nostalgia, mostly of them, as I have done. But it's just been lovely going back through memory lane, you know, watching the Children Need special, which, again, this is my first proper time watching it in full. I've never properly seen it in full. So it was wonderful doing that. And how that has sort of led on to this episode of the Christmas Invasion. And it kind of gives you more time with the Doctor. And it really just brings home just that love of a time of Doctor Who that I miss. I miss David Tennant. I miss this generation, this iteration of not just the Doctor, but of the show, how the show was, and how it wasn't scared to be scary, how it wasn't scared to push boundaries and try new things. Because, you know, this whole thing with blood magic and get people that are going to jump off the building, like mass suicide of 2 billion people instantly. That's terrifying. That's scary. And seeing the Sycorax, not being able to understand them, not being able to have that link, so they're not speaking English, so you can't humanize them. They're just alien. Terrifying. You know, I miss this generation. I really do. And I'm not going to be one of those people who's going to get into it of like, oh, you know, it's all changed and it's not the way it used to be. Like, no, because Doctor Who is always changing. That's the whole point of the show. Is always going to change. People just grow up and people change, and that's what changes. It's the people, it's not the show. So I'm not going to get into all that. But what I will say is I just miss this version, this iteration, this time of Doctor Who, of David Tennant's run completely. And it's just lovely how it ends, where the Doctor and Rose are looking up at the sky, And it's just that thing of like New Hope, Doctor Who. It's changed but hasn't, And I think that's what's important at Christmas time. Really, is the fact of change will come. The new year is soon. It's coming up very quickly, but don't worry because change is good. And Doctor Who, I think that's why Doctor Who is such loved by so many people. Is the fact of it. It just promotes the idea that change is good, change is okay. Don't worry about it, That's lovely, absolutely lovely. So yeah, that's all I have to say. If I leave myself, I'll just keep rambling and rambling. This episode will be an hour long, and it will completely miss the point. So I'm going to sort of wrap things up and just say thank you for listening. We've got the Runaway Bride next, so hopefully you'll all be around to enjoy that, and you all enjoyed this one. Again, let me know sort of in the comments down below. Let me know on YouTube. You can put comments on Spotify as well. Put your comments down, what you thought of this episode, what your thoughts on the Christmas Invasion. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Did you start watching after Christopher Eccleston left? Was you one of them people of like, oh, Eccleston's gone, that's it, I'm no longer watching Doctor Who? Or was you excited for this new change, for this new Doctor? Did you keep watching? I want to know all these sort of things. So please do let me know down below. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at HowdyBeans_pod. I'm also on TikTok, so follow me on there. And so I'll be back very, very soon for another Christmas Doctor Who special with the Runaway Bride and the introduction of Catherine Tate, Donna, one of my favourite companions of all time. I'm absolutely excited. So, without further ado, I'll see you all in the next one. It's been an absolute pleasure. Bye-bye.